The rain in New Hampshire didn't just fall. It felt like a heavy, liquid curtain trying to wash the very history off the earth. Oliver Reed sat in his silver luxury sedan, the leather interior smelling of expensive cologne and cold ambition. At 29, Oliver was the youngest senior associate at Sterling & Associates. He didn't look at landscapes. He looked at square footage. He didn't see ancient forests. He saw zoning permits for shopping malls and luxury condos. His mission today was his most important yet: obtain the signature of Mrs. Evelyn Vance. She was the last holdout in a $50 million development project. Her Victorian manor, sitting on 50 acres of prime timberland, was the final piece of the puzzle. Oliver had a briefcase full of legal threats and a check for an amount that would make most people lose their minds. He was prepared to be ruthless. He was prepared to win. But as he wound up the narrow, mud-slicked driveway of the Vance estate, the sky turned a bruised purple. Lightning cracked, a brilliant vein of white fire that struck an ancient oak near the path. The massive tree splintered, crashing toward the road. Oliver swerved, the heavy car hydroplaning on the slick mud. The world became a sickening whirl of gray sky and spinning trees until a bone-jarring impact with a stone wall silenced everything. When Oliver opened his eyes, the sharp, clinical smell of his car was gone. Instead, the air was thick with the scent of lavender, beeswax, and old paper. He was lying on a soft bed with a high brass headboard. He tried to remember his name, his job, or why he was in this house. But his mind was a smooth, empty slate. The accident had wiped his memory clean. "You had quite a tumble, young man," a soft, steady voice said. An elderly woman stood by the window, her white hair tied in a neat bun. She held a tray with a steaming ceramic mug. This was Evelyn Vance, the woman Oliver had come to destroy. But to the new Oliver, she was just the kind stranger who had found him unconscious in the wreckage of his silver cage. For the next 2 weeks, Oliver lived a life he hadn't known existed. Because his phone had been crushed in the crash and the storm had knocked out the landlines, he was isolated in a world governed by the rising and setting of the sun. Evelyn didn't ask who he was or what he wanted. She simply treated him like a guest who had been expected for a long time. He spent his days helping her in the sprawling, overgrown garden. He learned that every rose bush was planted in memory of a family member, red for her husband, yellow for a sister long gone. He helped her mend the fence, his expensive, soft hands getting blistered and stained with dark New England soil. He realized he enjoyed the physical ache of real work more than the mental stress of a courtroom. At night, they sat in the massive library, the very room Oliver was supposed to negotiate away. Evelyn read him letters from her husband, a soldier who had written to her every day for 40 years. "Everything has a heartbeat, Oliver," she told him one evening as they sat by the crackling fireplace. "Most people today think they can buy a soul, but you can only grow one through time and care." Oliver felt a strange, deep peace. The man who lived for billable hours and corporate conquest was dead. In his place was someone who appreciated the way the morning light hit the dust motes in the hallway. Someone who understood that the old manor wasn't just wood and stone. It was a vessel for a century of human life. But the silence was shattered on the 15th day. A black car, identical to the one Oliver had destroyed, pulled up the driveway. 2 men in sharp, charcoal suits stepped out, Oliver's boss, Marcus, and a junior associate. The moment Oliver saw the company logo on their briefcases, the fog in his mind cleared with a violent snap. The checks, the contracts, the final notice, it all came rushing back like a flood of ice water. "Oliver, you've been off the grid for 2 weeks. We thought you were dead," Marcus shouted, stepping onto the porch with a look of predatory excitement. "But I see you've been working the old lady. Brilliant move, playing the injured grandson role. Now, did you get her to sign? The bulldozers are already fueled up at the gate." Oliver looked at Evelyn. She was standing in the shadows of the doorway, her small frame suddenly looking very frail and very old. She saw the briefcase in his hand, the one she had carefully cleaned and placed on the table for him every day. She saw the flash of corporate coldness return to his eyes, and then she saw the look of absolute shame that followed it. So, she whispered, her voice trembling but clear. You weren't a guest after all. You were just a ghost sent to haunt me. Marcus pushed past Oliver, laying the contract on the oak table. Sign here, Mrs. Vance. We've tripled the offer. Oliver, tell her. Tell her how this money will buy her the best nursing home in the country. Oliver looked at the pen. He looked at the library, the garden he had mended, and the woman who had nursed a stranger back to health without asking for a single cent. He thought about his high-rise apartment in the city, a glass box with a beautiful view of other glass boxes, but no soul. He picked up the contract. Evelyn turned away, her shoulders slumped in total defeat, ready to lose her history. Then, Oliver did something that would permanently end his career at Sterling and Associates. He didn't hand her the pen. Instead, he walked to the massive stone fireplace and dropped the $50 million contract into the glowing red embers. What the hell are you doing? Marcus screamed, lunging for the fireplace. The property is not for sale, Oliver said, his voice calmer and more powerful than it had ever been in a courtroom. And if you or any representative of this firm sets foot on this land again, I will personally lead the legal defense for the Vance estate. I have 10 years of your firm's private records in my head, Marcus. I know exactly which laws you've bent to get these projects approved. Try me. After the black car sped away, leaving a cloud of angry dust, the manor became quiet again. The only sound was the wind in the pines. Oliver turned to Evelyn. I'm sorry, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I forgot who I was. But you helped me remember the person I was supposed to be. Evelyn didn't say a word at first. She simply walked over and handed him a pair of old garden shears. The hedges in the back need trimming, Oliver. And I think it's time you planted a rose bush of your own. One for a new beginning. Oliver Reed never went back to the city. He stayed in the valley, using his legal expertise to turn the entire Vance estate into a protected historical landmark and a sanctuary for the community. He realized that true success isn't measured by the height of the buildings you build, but by the precious things you have the courage to save.